You ready? It's time to call to order the regular meeting of the McAlester City Council, Tuesday, June 11th. We do have a quorum. We have Mr. Rick and Brownlee and Ms. Emily Coxey, who is Miss McAlester Teen, and both are 4-H County ambassadors from McAlester High School to lead us in the pledge and invocation.
Will you bow your heads as I pray? Dear God, as we come together today, we give you thanks for your good gifts you give us. We ask your blessings on the people who have been called to lead the community in which we live, work, and play. We ask that you will strengthen us, restore us, and inspire us with your love. Lord, would you fill us with your peace so that we, as we journey forward, to pour out your love and grace to others. We all ask this in our precious name we pray. Amen.
Please remain standing and join me in the pledge allegiance of the flag. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may now be seated.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Karen, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Stevens?
Here.
Reed?
Here.
Brown?
Yes.
Harrison? Here. Richard?
Here.
Mayor?
Here. We'll begin with recognition and awards. I have a proclamation to read in observance of Juneteenth celebration. Whereas serious social problems concern our nation and threaten its future, and whereas connecting with others and working together can bridge the differences that separate people and help solve serious social problems, and whereas we, the American people, desire a traditional community event to commemorate June 19th, 1865, the day Galveston, Texas, and surrounding areas received the news of the Emancipation Proclamation of 1863. And whereas this year's celebration will commemorate the 154th year as a date of Major General Gordon Granger and the Union soldiers' arrival on June 19th, 1865 in Galveston, Texas. And whereas many individuals are touched by the history of the Juneteenth Freedom Day celebration and have joined to promote this day in recognition June 15th as a significant day to celebrate the freedom of African Americans from slavery. And whereas remembrance and respect for this event is an historical and educational investment in the future we all must share, now therefore it be resolved that I, John Brown, Mayor of the City of McAlester, do hereby proclaim June 15th, 2019 as Juneteenth celebration in the City of McAlester and urge all citizens to observe this day by connecting with friends, fellow employees, relatives, and with religious, school, and other cultures to engage in activities benefiting their community. And there will also be a celebratory event at Hunter Park this coming Saturday. I'm not sure of the time. We would move on to citizens' comments on non-agenda items. Residents may address council regarding an item that is not listed on the agenda. Residents must provide their name and address, and council requests and comments be limited to 5 minutes. We did not have anybody sign up. I don't see anybody running towards the microphone, so we will head to the consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda. It will be considered separately. The agenda tonight consists of A, approval of minutes from May 14th, 2019 regular meeting of the McAlester City Council. B, approval of minutes from the May 23rd, 2019 special meeting of McAlester City Council. C, approval of claims for May 22nd, 2019 through June 4th, 2019. D, consider and act upon an agreement between McAlester Public Schools and the City of McAlester in regards to the school resource officer. E, consider and act upon a request from Pittsburgh County Chapter NAACP to use the Michael J. Hunter Park, 14th and Chickasaw, Oklahoma, on Saturday, June 15th, 2019, from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. to hold the Juneteenth celebration. F, concur with the mayor's reappointments of Frank Phillips, Steve Cox, and Susan Kennard to the Planning Commission for terms to expire on May 31st, 2022. G, consider and act upon to authorize the mayor to sign a memorandum of understanding between the City of McAlester and Eastern Oklahoma State College to continue employing a small business advisor through the Oklahoma Small Business Development Center. H, consider and act upon to authorize the execution of a professional services agreement with the Spectrum Group to provide technical and logistical assistance to establish the goals, objectives, and timing of the 2019 annual Stampede event, and to provide legislative Department of Defense monitoring advocacy services. I, consider and act upon renewal of a contract with American Municipal Services for the collection of monies owed to the city for citations and or warrants. Would anyone like anything removed? Councilman Reed?
D.
E. Anyone else? Okay, so we'll take a motion to approve items A through C and E through I. Motion, Councilman Reed, second, Councilman Brown. Any discussion? Corey, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Stevens,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and motion carries. Councilman Reed, item D.
Mayor, first of all, you know, that we discussed this agreement a few months ago. And one of my concerns during that was the comp time that the officer would be able to accumulate. And I was glad to hear that there was very little comp time accumulated as a result of the last agreement. And there wasn't any problem with taking that comp time. So that alleviated, you know, one of those concerns I had with the agreement. But the other problem I have is the other same one I had last time, and that's the compensation rate. Officer Busby makes $78,000 a year salary and benefits. That works out to $37.50 an hour. The agreement calls for Officer Busby to put in 1,480 hours per the agreement. That works for the 185 days at 8 hours a day. That works out to a total of $55,500 total. And we're only being compensated $39,000. So there's a loss to the city there of $16,500. Now, I think it was in today's paper or maybe the school board meeting. I think they had one last night where they set the number of hours that the school would be in session for students. And it was 1,080 hours for the year. And that meets the state requirement. Now, if Officer Busby only worked at the school when students were present for that 1,080 hours, that comes out to $40,500. We're $1,500 short. But that's a lot better than losing $16,500. I believe that I don't have any problem with the program, but I do believe that we should be compensated for the time that he puts in. So I would recommend that the agreement be changed to on the first page of it in paragraph 4, I think, and take out the 185 days annually and make that 1,080 hours. And change the second sentence to read, the officer will work the hours students are in attendance at the schools. And that should work out to 1,080 hours. And like I said, we're still being shorted about $1,500, but like I said, that gets us a lot closer than coming up 16,000 plus. And we're still providing the services that the school needs.
Chief, do you have anything to?
I don't know that I could address those numbers. I know I have a meeting with the superintendent tomorrow, so.
Superintendent here.
He snuck in behind me.
And Officer Busby is here.
I really can't address the numbers because, I mean, I heard what you said, but haven't had time to absorb all that.
Mr. Hughes, would you, did you hear what Councilman Reed was saying?
Well, the 1,080 hours, That's the minimum amount that students go. We go far more than that. And the thing is, we use the McAlester Police Department anyway. So with the SRO, that was a way for us to give back because we would be calling the police department anytime we had things. This was kind of, we went together trying to put together where we can make this a more cohesive group where there is a better relationship between the campus police and the city PD. So as far as trying to, for us, I think the 1,080 hours is not representative of a school day. That's, like I said, that's the minimum amount. We go 7 to 7.5 hours a day. And there's a lot of activities, a lot of things that go on in the evenings. So it's a coordination of all of those events. So that's.
Well, Mayor, I think that that's addressed, that these evening events are addressed as comp time that would be earned. Mr. Hughes, are you saying that the students attend an additional 400 hours above the minimum requirements? That they're actually in attendance for 400 hours a year? More than what the minimum state requirement is? They don't take.
It's probably over 200. Yes, minimum. Yes.
What about the school breaks? Christmas break, Thanksgiving break, spring break. They're not in school during those times, right?
No. That's time in class.
But we're counting those hours here, right?
The days, no, not in the 1,080. you don't.
185 days is, what, 9 months? So you have to be counting those days.
Well, not for the hours you don't.
Well, we're not counting hours here. What we're being asked to do is provide 185 days. So 185 days would include those breaks.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So what I'm saying is that there's no reason for Officer Busby to be working for the school during school breaks because there's no students there.
Well, that was the things that we used for the comp time and help balance that out. And I guess there were times, because he could probably speak more to this than I can, of doing the investigations and other things that he was doing with the SRO job. So, but you're right. We're not in school during the Christmas break or the spring break, and that's part of the 185 days.
That's right.
Right.
Okay.
I just did the math, and 1,080 hours comes out to about 4.5 months, using 30 days as a month. So,
well, they're not in attendance 30 days.
School days.
They're only in attendance 5 days a week.
Yeah, Councilman Pritchard.
Mr. Hughes, how many days are you in school? Do you know?
We go approximately 165 days.
And so that was 1,080 the hour, the hour, is that right? 1,080. But is that, so what am I trying to say? Do you just get credit for the time, like from the time the bell rings to the time the bell? So that doesn't include any before or after school?
No before, no after. Any other activities after school? None. No.
Chief, I got a question. What was the rationale behind us participating in this from your point of view?
He was already doing the team approach, teaching education and mentoring, and spent most of his time teaching in the classrooms during the school year. And so it seemed like a logical thing to keep him in there. The school offered to do the compensation. Like I said, he was already in there anyway most of the time. Now we're obligated to keep him in there because of the contract. I would like to add a couple of things. The comp time issue with after school activities, most of those are athletic activities and they're compensated by the school district. He does not accrue comp time. The athletic department pays our officers frequently or sometimes sheriff's deputies to work, and he participates in that manner. So he gets financial compensation from the school for those activities. Councilman Reed, we endeavored to, I talked to him and we really worked at keeping the comp time low.
I appreciate it.
Well, I understand. And he did a really good job of doing that.
He did.
I have one other question. And I don't know if you would know the answer to this or not, but since he has been working over there, have we had a reduced number of calls for our other officers to go?
Well, yes, he takes most of the calls now. There's a possibility we might have multiple calls at one time, and we'll send officers over there. You know, he's a McAlester police officer assigned to that assignment, but obviously he can't be at two places at one time. So occasionally officers still have to go. Sometimes Officer Busby's sick or he has to take off for a sick child. So then other officers will respond. They're not assigned to be over there all the time, but they will respond.
So it's saving us. It's saving us from using other resources to go over there that if he wasn't there, we would have to use.
Yes, absolutely. He takes care of the law enforcement when he's available to do so, and normally he is available to do so. I would like to add to the council that he makes a difference over there. He has a great rapport with the students and with the faculty. I think he enhances the safety of the schools. He does all the criminal stuff that he can do, but he does so much more than that. And I get a lot of response. I get more compliments on Officer Busby than I do any other individual officer in my department.
Be careful; they'll want more than $70,000.
I also agree with Councilman Reed that you can't shortchange patrol. Patrol is the backbone of your department, and you've got to make sure that the citizens are safe, and you got to make sure patrol is adequately staffed. But Officer Busby is one of 45 officers, and we have, I think, 22% of our population's under 18. I believe there are over 3,000 students in the McAlester School District, and I think his presence there is a good investment.
Councilman Brown.
Well, if we can get a balance here, but I can tell you from being over there daily, pretty much daily, that I've seen Officer Busby as well. I've seen him in the classroom. I've been in there with him. Chief, he's spoken to the class. We're just basically, I haven't seen much going on. I mean, talking about fights and that kind of stuff. And I used to try to jump in a few, but I'm getting too old to break them up now. But I think it does. It makes an impact. What I can see now. Again, I'm there most of the time. I'm at the elementary some. I've seen him down at Emerson, some of those places speaking. But the comp time's down. I'm just trying to figure out a balance here so we can comp time's down, accountability, so everybody can account for what's going on. Pretty much, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, but again, Officer Busby, the kids like him. I mean, he can probably get information out of them that somebody else can't get. I do know that. They told me stuff. So, yeah. Oh, okay.
Anyone else? Is there a motion?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve it with the changes.
The change in the
From
1080.
185 or 185 days to 1,080 hours. And we'll work the hours if the students are in attendance.
Is there a second? Seeing no second, the motion dies. Is there any other motions? I'll make the motion that we approve item D as written. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second, Councilman Brown. Is there any further discussion? Karen, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Reed,
No.
Brown,
Yes.
Harrison, yes, Pritchard,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. Chief, thank you, Mr. Hughes. We are on to public hearing. All persons interested in any ordinance listed under scheduled business shall have an opportunity to be heard in accordance with Article 2, Section 212B of the City Charter. Tonight, there's two. The first is an ordinance of the City of McAlester, Oklahoma, amending ordinance number 2626, which established the budget for fiscal year 2018-19, repealing all conflicting ordinances, providing for a severability clause, and declaring an emergency. Second is an ordinance adopting the budget for the city of McAlester, Oklahoma for the fiscal year 2019-2020. Need a motion and a second to open the public hearing. Motion, Councilman Pritchard. Second, Councilman Reed. Any discussion? Karen, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
sorry.
You faked me out. We're now in the public hearing. Anyone that would like to address the council on either of the two ordinances? Seeing no one, I take a motion and a second to close public hearing. Motion, Councilwoman Harrison, second, Councilman Reed. Any discussion? Karen, would you call the roll?
Councilman Harrison,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes, and the motion carries. Came really close to messing up names on that one. We are on to agenda item number 1, consider and act upon adoption of the City of McAlester Council Handbook. Mr. Stasiak?
Mayor, members of the council, this is the council handbook that was presented last year that was approved by the council. It goes through many different areas of our form of government. It is written in the guidelines of what OMAG presented earlier, and staff's recommendation is to approve the handbook as written. It's a good tool.
All right. Is there any questions or comments? Take a motion. Excuse me. Take a motion to second approve. Motion, Councilman Reed. Second, Councilman Pritchard. Any discussion? Karen, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Pritchard,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes, and the motion carries. On to agenda item number 2, consider an act upon approval of a resolution requesting participation in the OMAG recognition program. Mr. Stasiak?
Mayor, members of the council, we learned earlier about the OMAG recognition program. This is year 2 within the program. On a 3-year program, we recommend participation and adoption of the resolution as written.
Any questions or comments? Take a motion in a second to approve. Motion, Councilman Reed, second, Councilman Brown. Any further discussion? Carol, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Stevens,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes, and the motion carries. We're on to agenda item number 3, consider an act upon an ordinance amending ordinance number 2626, which established the budget for fiscal year 2018-19, repealing all conflicting ordinances, providing for severability clause and declaring an emergency.
Mayor and Councilman, this is in front of you. It's Exhibit A39. That is a FAA grant. They give us additional grant, so I have to do the budget amendment to increase our grant revenue and then also the increase our expense to finish the airport project. And then Exhibit A40. This is the match that we have to, when FAA grant give us the additional amount, we have to match 10% of it. So I use our general fund to cover this match revenue. And another one that I did is for the our capital improvement. On the next one is Exhibit 41. This capital improvement is we going to purchase the animal control truck and the dump truck, and I think our animal control truck we need to purchase it really urgent. So I put the money into the Fund 41, and I transfer from the fund general fund and the MPWA to cover it. That is Exhibit 42 from the MPWA to Fund 41 to cover the dump truck. And Exhibit 43 is our donation fund. There's a donation to the park for the Connolly Park, and another donation is $60,000 is for the roundabout project.
Any questions?
I have one, Mayor.
Councilman Brown?
Councilman budget, what can that be used for? Because it's got quite a bit of money in it. Is that just for books and literature, or is that a question for? Okay. I don't want to throw you off.
That question is for the budget that the 1920 budget or the budget amendments? That's for the budget,
This is,
but I
Okay,
can answer it now. It doesn't
okay,
matter.
go ahead, because I'll probably ask it again.
That goes with the
Oh, that's right.
It's the next agenda
that's
item.
the next one.
That's the next agenda item.
Okay.
Okay.
You want to just wait on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna ask, you can answer it on the next one.
The councilman, the councilman's budget has the membership with OML in it, which is $20-something thousand,
Mm-hmm.
$21,000. It changes year to year. So $21,000 of it is OML fees, membership.
And then the rest is just in there.
And then we have the Stampede, which is the travel and training,
Okay.
and your $50 salary.
Oh, thank you.
And just miscellaneous supplies that Cora has to buy, like the pictures and the different things that account for the council. But
Okay.
those are minimum.
Yeah.
Majority of it is the OML membership and the salaries, and then the other. So
Okay. All right. Thank
Councilman Pritchard, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, will you explain Exhibit A41 to me again?
41.
Yeah. What did we do there?
That's in the capital fund, and we, the animal control truck, the dump truck is the one that broke down, and we dispensed of it last council meeting, and we're purchasing it as soon as possible. And so if we get it before July the 1st, we have to pay for it in this year's budget. So we're budget amending this one, but it's actually budgeted in the new budget also. So we're budgeting in both budgets, but whenever we receive the truck is when we'll have to. This is just covering us in case we get it before July 1st. And we probably will, but either way, we're covered. And then if we don't pay for it in this budget, it'll go into the fund balance and we'll pay for it out of the next year's budget. We're not getting 2 trucks.
Okay. Thank you.
We're just covering ourselves.
How many vehicles do we have? Total? We got fleet. I know fleet insurance. How many, do you know roughly? I think Pete said it last time.
I think
100 and something?
155.
Oh, 155.
That's our rolling stock.
Okay.
And any other questions
Thank
or
you.
comments about the budget amendments? Take a motion in a second to approve the amendments.
So move, Mayor.
Motion, Councilman Brown, second, Councilwoman Harrison. Any further discussion? Karen, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. Motion, excuse me, motion carries. This has an emergency with it, so I need a motion in a second on the emergency as well. Motion, Councilman Pritchard, second, Councilman Brown. Any discussion? Karen, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Stevens,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. We're on to agenda item number 4, consider and act upon an ordinance adopting the budget of the city of McAlester, Oklahoma for the fiscal year 2019-2020, providing for severability and declaring an emergency. You guys are up again.
Do you have any questions with the budget? We have passed out extra sheets. I'll explain why. This is actually what goes with the ordinance and goes to the state that we file at the state level. You've got new ones because when we printed out the budget, we created a new fund, and in our system it was there, but it did not print out with the sheets. So full disclosures, there's a sinking fund that was created this year to receive any judgments from the county. It's only $1,000 and it's listed at the back here for full disclosure, but our system didn't print it out when we distributed the paper budgets. But you have them at your desk, and everything's fixed and everything going to the state. If you approve tonight, you'll have what we have attached to your seat or passed out at your seat.
Tony, how much is in the emergency fund?
Fund balance.
Yeah.
It's $3,400,000. $3,400,000. Mhm.
Okay.
Any other questions? Councilman Harrison,
What date is this effective? I don't see a date on here.
July 1st.
Oh,
Who knows? Council Pritchard.
I've got a question. I should have said this sooner, but I'm going to say it before we adopt it. I think that I've been looking at the hotel motel tax, the tourism fund. I think we should consider a different use of these money. In the past, or at least for, I think since Pete's been here, since we've accounted for it the way we currently do, we made a large transfer, about $330,000 a year to the Expo Center. We're going to do, or this budget in front of us proposes $467,000. I think we should keep that number more in line with Expo Center. I have an idea that we should transfer, instead of making those transfers, we should do about $100,000 to the general fund that would then be used to do two things. Would be used to do park maintenance, to promote tourism, and would be used to do urban landscaping. So think streetscape improvements and maintenance. We just spent a bunch of money down there, and we didn't provide any funding for even the purchasing of the landscaping, and certainly not for the ongoing maintenance. And then additionally, I think we should take $100,000 of that tourism money and put it into a fund, transfer it into the economic development fund for what we would call private development assistance. If you look at the hotel motel tax ordinance, I call it hotel motel, I think it's just hotel. But it talks about doing the convention center at the Expo Center, but it also talks about improving parks or maintaining parks for tourism and historic districts. We largely, or as best I can tell, haven't used it for much other than tourism activities. So running the tourism department, supporting some organizations that kind of help with tourism, festivals, that kind of things. And then the Expo Center. We as a council, certainly with the downtown streetscape, have recognized, this is a historic part of our community. This is something worth reviving. This hotel motel tax is right there. We actually used it to do a lot of the streetscape. And so I think it makes sense right now, especially as we're projecting an increase over past years, to take some of that money and say, let's keep doing the expo about what we've been doing, but let's put some money into the park system and the historic districts of this community. So I have like a formal, I wrote all that down, but I don't know.
Councilman Brown.
Manager Urban, Assistant Manager Urban, how much money did we spend downtown?
On the streetscape
Yes,
alone,
yeah.
that was over $600,000.
$669,000. That included all private donations and city money.
Okay. Now, when you get to the expo, and I know I've asked this and we all know, but are we making any money out there? Or are we losing money out there?
We have always subsidized the expo.
Okay. So that means that we're losing money, right? I mean, how much are we actually losing?
Majority of expo centers around the state
I know.
are subsidized. They're
Right.
not, I don't look at it like losing money. I mean, we don't lose money on our parks. They never make money either.
Okay.
But the expo centers that have hotels attached to them are the only ones that I'm aware of that have ever, broken even or made a profit.
So
Or-
places like Shawnee and all those.
Right.
got it
The
there.
attached hotel makes it more of a, business. And so you make more money. But all of the expos that stand alone usually are subsidized with public money.
I wonder what we would do if we didn't have it. I mean, I remember when they put it all together, but a lot of people feel like. Yeah,
We're more than welcome for, open discussion about what we can do. To
I
replace some
don't
of
want to
the-
shut it down. I'm just asking.
Right.
People have asked me, so I'm asking that, putting it out there. Go ahead, Councilman Pritchard. I'll yield to you, sir.
Well, I mean, what I'm actually proposing is that we transfer, instead of the 467,623, that we would do a transfer to the Southeast Expo Fund of $313,623 $1,000, and then $100,000 to the economic development, and $100,000 to the general fund earmarked for the Parks Department. But I'm also proposing that we increase the concession prices out there in the budget, $25,000. They're way too cheap. We're not making enough money on the concessions. And when you put all that together, last year we transferred last year, 2018, 2019, we did a tourism transfer of $365,000 to the Expo Center. So, this is no idea to shut down the Expo Center. This is a budget that's almost, very close to in line with what we spent last year. And our 8-year average out there in terms of transfers from the tourism fund is $342,000. So if we did make this change to the budget, it would certainly be in line with what we've done in the past, Expo operations. So there would be no reason to change anything out there. And again, it just gives us an opportunity to say, what can we do to develop the historic nature, the historic district of this community through, some economic development incentives, and also what can we do to put some more money in the parks to improve them for tourism type opportunities. I mean, think, as we have the Sunbelt tournament in town, think if we had $50,000 in the parks budget to do, or if we had $100,000 in the parks budget, we could do, improvements to the parks that would help tourism during the Sunbelt tournament. Think about, I don't know, new restrooms, potentially improvements that over time could even turn into 2 fields. So these would be small incremental approaches, but they're sustainable revenues that can improve this community, instead of just putting putting a very, very large chunk of this tourism money, this hotel tax, into the one site on the, at the Expo Center.
Vice Mayor Stevens.
How much are we projected to subsidize the Expo Center this upcoming year?
By his definition, what we transfer in is basically what we subsidize, which is the one number, the 467,000. But I will point out that, we can spend tourism money in and out of the tourism fund directly to parks, and we have a capital outlay at the bottom that is not always defined. And this year we raised it to, is this the tourism fund? Okay, in the Expo fund, I'm sorry, we have $100,000. In the tourism fund, we have capital outlay, but there's nothing to prohibit us from spending directly to the parks from the tourism fund.
Well, if I may, then I would be fine then just leaving the $110,000 or the $100,000 that I'd like to use on the parks. I'd be fine leaving that in the capital outlay under the tourism fund. That doesn't make a difference to me, but I would like to earmark the money for, improvements to the parks and the other $100,000 for economic development assistance.
Does that say that in the tourism wording? In the hotel motel tax?
Well, it says,
Because I'm not
so
familiar
the
with
statute,
economic development being part of it.
well, the ordinance isn't the way, it says examples of authorized purposes include, but are not limited to. So you can make it say a lot of different things. What it does say though is, this is 98-129-3, building, restoring, preserving, and promoting parks or historic sites or museums. So, I think we could certainly run a program through this that did private development assistance for historic sites,
Well, a lot of
whatever
things
that is.
we have, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
A lot of things we have in tourism partners with economic development fund a lot, like McAlester Main Street is funded through there 50-50. Pride McAlester is funded through there 50-50. Those kind of things that as a common, could be tourism, could be economic development. Those are in there under that. We used to have the Old Town Festival and Culture Fest. We have those in there, and those are for downtown. So those are already in the tourism budget for those kind of purposes. But retasking them, this is during the year, we can use this budget, but retask them to whatever this body points us to.
If I may, I would probably have to agree with Councilman Pritchard. I'd like to see it earmarked and go that direction, because I think one thing that's become very evident to me in the last little bit, and discussions with people in the community and discussions on the Expo Center, and I know this council has majoritarily heard from me about the Expo Center, my thoughts on it, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing for our community. I just think we should do it different and better. And that's not to say that we're doing it bad or worse or anything else. I think that it's just time to reevaluate. I think, if anything, the Sun Belt's a very good reminder right now of things that we could be doing to improve. Those facilities in that park they're pretty awful. And that's not to say that we're not trying to keep them and do things. And that's not to say that maybe there's some other people's issues that they should maybe be chipping into. But, those bathrooms are pretty bad. You walk around the facility, and I know our parks department does a wonderful job. And I am not demeaning them by any means. They do a phenomenally good job. But we're not doing anything, I don't think, to improve some of those things that could be a real boon to our community. And quite frankly, Northtown, I don't think gets the attention that it deserves. And I think with Councilman Pritchard, when he's saying there and earmarking for some of these historical preservation, and even the hotel tax and what it is a really good way to improve that. You could couple that with a TIF. You could couple that with private investment. You could couple that with more grant opportunities as we can try to pursue like we're already doing. But I think this is a good decision. And I think it's something that it tackles the whole thing as a whole, because if one thing has become very, very apparent to me since my time on council, and even hearing people pros and cons for and against streetscape, for and against TIFs, is that we have a lot of needs in our community, from potholes to water to parks to growing economic development to jobs to paying for this to paying for that. And we don't have enough funds to do it. But I think if we learn to continue to spend them wisely and spend them on things that maybe can increase those funds, it makes a lot of sense. So I would definitely support what Councilman Pritchard's saying here, and then going forward and earmarking it and doing those things that way.
I personally would like to see more information on it, actually, because I know one of the things you mentioned was essentially a business development fund. And, I'd like to see something on paper on that. So what I would prefer to do would be pass this budget and have that come back as an agenda item, either on whenever you're prepared to present it.
Well, Mayor, I would be happy to do that, but I do think that, I think that this budgeting process is important to put the funding in place. I mean, we have an economic development staff that I'm sure, has some level of opportunities that are already out there. Additionally, the council, we did a couple months ago, or maybe a month ago, did the lead committee. And so this would be a potential source of revenue that the lead committee could distribute. So, I think those things are out there, but for me, it's, I think it's important at this point to just create the funding. And then, again, thinking about our role as that of a board of directors of, here's the funding, this is what the funding's for, staff go out and execute, or, advisory committees go out and execute on that, that vision with the funding. This is not to your point, but I'll say this briefly, is I think also if you look at over the last year, the numbers for the Expo Center, it was one of the worst performing years in the last handful of years. Rental dollars were down. I believe we increased rental rates, which means overall, number of rentals were down even worse than the revenue numbers would indicate. So, I think that being the case, and we've seen, I think part of this is probably the rate increases, but part of this is also probably a more competitive event rental landscape in the city of McAlester. I mean, we've had more places open in the last handful of years, and as we've increased our rates at the Expo, it becomes a less attractive option, just from a market perspective. And so I think this council would be remiss to say, well, let's, even in the face of less than ideal performance in the last year, let's spend more money out there. I think if we keep the budget in line, kind of try to maintain where we're at, and see what the market does over the next 12 months in terms of rental revenue, that would be much better. And in that same time period, we could take that money, begin to do some historic preservation steps, some historic renovations, and work on using these parks a little bit more, provide an additional revenue stream there to get people into this community. So,
as I said, I don't disagree with you. I just rather see it before I voted on it, essentially.
Mayor,
Councilwoman Harris.
I've got a question. I want to get a clear understanding to make sure that I'm on board with what you're saying. Are you saying that we have this money, we have this 467,000 plus? We already have that money.
Yes.
And Councilman Pritchard is saying that if we could earmark that two different ways, it could be done without any real issues. Or what are we saying? How can that be done?
Well, what I understand him to say, and maybe you can correct me, but you want to designate $100,000 for parks and maybe $100,000 for another fund, not touching the 400,000.
No, I'm suggesting,
Extract it.
if
Oh,
you,
sorry.
can I?
Uh-huh.
What I'm suggesting is the staff prepared budget that I have in front of me calls for, and this is through the course of the year, we plan to collect this much revenue through the hotel tax. We plan to collect, what is it, $850,000?
850.
Yeah, 850,000. We're budgeting that we're going to get revenues of 850. That's the proposed budget here. And the proposed budget also calls to take for 467,000 of that and transfer that to the expo to, do a number of different things at the expo center.
Okay.
What I'm suggesting is instead of transferring 467 to the expo, 467,000, we transfer 313,000. We increase the concession prices out there in the budget, $25,000. And with that money, that $154,000 and a few other savings from the tourism fund, we take $100,000 and allocate toward economic development of historic sites and $100,000 toward the parks for tourism promotion. That's my proposal.
Okay. When you say historical sites, are we including Northtown because we don't have the festival anymore? So how would
I don't see why they
Northtown-
wouldn't be a historical site. They're very much the age of that would definitely benefit from that. So I think very much so, yes.
Oh, well, I was wondering to see if that was
Yeah.
included as historical.
Councilman Pritchard.
Yeah,
The-
talk to the mayor.
We should make note that in the prepared budget, the proposed budget, it does include $15,000 for the Old Town Festival this year. So that's already happening. But I agree with you. I mean, outside of that, if you look at the ordinance, I mean, it talks about programs to attract tourists for sports, arts, humanity events. I mean, we already see a lot of that over in Northtown with, with antique shops, and that can really be expanded on. There's the, people trying to turn the J.J. McAlester house into a museum. So there's lots of, when you think about history in McAlester, I mean, it starts over there. So yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know, I don't have a specific proposal of we should spend the money here or here, but certainly in, historic sites.
Mayor.
Oh, Councilman Reed.
No, no,
Thank you. So how are you going to select historical sites? In other words, I don't know what's historical in town. We know downtown, and we know the federal building over in Northtown, but are there don't we have a grant writer, or are they no longer here?
We do. She's on vacation.
Okay. I'm just saying maybe they can apply for some of that historical. I know they're out there. And then one more thing, Mayor. Now the concession, is it okay to ask Councilman Pritchard?
Yes.
Okay. Councilman, now the concessions, are we going to lose money? I mean, we're going to increase the concessions, but how's that going to work out? Because if people aren't buying that much now, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, I mean, I don't know. When I go out there and I buy a Coke or a candy bar or popcorn, I'm just always surprised. Like it's too cheap.
You want to like the OU-OSU games?
Well, I mean, there is
I'm not sure we got that job.
I'm talking about when they raise those kind of rates on them.
Well, I mean, I'm not suggesting we're raising anything crazy, but I mean, the fact of the matter is our concession prices are
Too cheap.
Yeah, they're just too cheap. I mean, if you look at our budget, we barely collected more revenue than we spent on concession supplies. I mean, there's no reason. We'd be better off not having the concessions almost at the prices we're charging. So you just charge a little bit more. People go out there, they pay instead of whatever it is, $2, they pay $3 for their Coke and they're happy. And then, then we can spend a little bit more money in different parts of town. It seems like a reasonable solution to me.
Councilman Reed.
Mayor, I agree with you. Frankly, I don't understand why we need to earmark $100,000 for economic development. That's not what this tax is for. This tax is for tourism. It's for the parks. It's for things like that. Now, if there's specific projects that Councilman Pritchard believes that would qualify for this money, I say bring it to the council and we'll talk about it. But I don't believe we need to earmark $100,000 at this point, especially since we haven't even talked about this until the night of the vote. This this is an issue, you know, we're not talking about just how much hamburgers cost out there at the expo. You know, earmarking $200,000 out of the budget that's already been prepared, I think is unnecessary at this point. The park money, I don't have any problem with that. I mean, we could do that at any time, transfer another $100,000 to the parks. But to establish a separate fund and earmark for $100,000 or something that we don't even have a project on the table for. And that's not what that money's for. It's not for economic development. You know, it's to, like Councilman Pritchard said, to use for various things, but economic development is not in the wording, as far as I know, in the ordinance.
If I may. I mean, the wording, and I understand that concern, but the wording of the language does explicitly provide for the building, restoring, preserving, and promoting of historic sites or museums. So, and clearly, I mean, there are no projects. I have no projects, but you know, I think, at least on my perspective on this, is if we create this fund, if we empower staff to say, look, you got $100,000, go find us some projects. If we tell the community, hey, we got $100,000 here to do historic, whatever, building, I don't know how you build historic, but build historic, restore, preserve, then those projects are going to come to us. I think we need to take a more proactive approach on this. I mean, you know, a lot of the reason I think we don't have a list of projects, one of the reasons I didn't come here with a list of projects is because we haven't had any money available, or people don't think we have any money available. So this is, you know, this is an opportunity to say, okay, community, neighbors, we've got some money. You've got that museum you want to open. You've got that old building you want to renovate. Let's talk. I'll say additionally too, because of, you know, we've been fortunate to have an increase in the hotel tax collections. So, you know, this is largely new money coming into the city here. So we're not really taking away from anything. I mean, all the changes that this formal proposal would include leaves keeping the budget numbers from last year the same or very, very similar. So we've got the money. And again, this is just an opportunity, I think, for us as a community to say, look, we want to get proactive. We want to get out in front of some of this stuff. Bring us your projects and we'll find it. Because, you know, I don't know how good we are. I mean, I think it's understandable, but I don't know how good we are at telling people, hey, we want to do economic development. We want to see if there's a way to help. I mean, I personally have benefited from the economic development department, and I talk to a lot of people, you know, all the time that say, well, why don't you help me? And I think it's always been an issue of resource availability, whether it's time, whether it's people, whether it's money. And this is an opportunity, and that the lead committee is the same thing, for us to begin to sort of shift that back the other direction and say, hey, we're a community. These are our resources. How can we deploy them that makes everybody better?
Anyone else? Councilwoman Harrison?
All right. Even if we can't, say, put 100,000 in economic development, if that's an issue, can 100,000 still go to parks and historic improvement?
We essentially can do anything.
No, I mean, if the economic development is an issue, can that be done
Well,
at another time? It's tabled and discussed later.
It can be done. It could be done tonight, or it can be done at another time. There would, if it wasn't done this evening, it would be a budget amendment like we did earlier.
Okay.
So it's.
Another.
Oh,
Okay. What part does the county play in this, if it plays in with, as far as the expo? And then what happens to when vendors pay their fee? Where does that go?
Mr. Stasiak, that's yours.
We lease the expo from the county
Oh, yes.
and for a minimal fee. And it's the entire facility out there is the responsibility of the city of McAlester, including maintenance and upkeep and capital improvements. Any rentals are actually budgeted in the budget as incoming revenues. which helps offset some of the costs of the operation of that facility out there.
Now, do I have to go through you, Mayor? I wanted to ask you. All right. So is it based on each event is when you receive the money? The city receives the money
It is.
according to the event?
Yes,
Okay.
and how many days they rent the facility, which room they need, it's all very specific to what their needs, the people that are renting the facility, what their needs are.
Mayor, if I may. Councilman Pritchard, did you make that in the way of a motion? And if so, can you read that again?
I did
Please.
not, and really based upon all the feedback, I'm not comfortable making a motion.
Okay.
Mayor, just for the manager. So it's all our responsibility to keep it up, and the county owns the building.
Correct.
Well, something wrong with that picture. I mean,
Councilor Reed.
okay.
Mayor, I do believe that the Expo Center operation is a subject that we should probably discuss as a council, as an agenda item at some point in the near
A lot
future.
of feedback.
Because I personally believe there are some issues that need to be addressed. And I agree that we shouldn't, even though we may never be profitable out there, I believe we shouldn't be losing the money that we are. And I think as a council, we need to talk about that. And whether or not even we want to continue that relationship, to be honest with you.
I would like to see Councilman Pritchard's proposal come back as an agenda item soon, where we have a little bit more flesh to it. Councilman Pritchard.
If we could get together and work on that and kind of outline your ideas and look at the ordinances and whether or not we need to make any changes or anything, I'd be more than happy to sit down with you and work through that.
That'd be great. I make a motion, we adopt the budget
Got the budget
as proposed.
proposal second. Did you get the, Stephen? Yes. Any further discussion? Karen, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Stevens?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Pritchard?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes, and the motion carries. We are on to agenda item number 5, consider an act upon a resolution of the city of McAlester to implement a clean slate program for outstanding delinquent city warrants due to the municipal court. This is gonna be you. Probably so you get to the mic. Unless, does your mic work?
Tap on it. Tap on it.
Both of you.
Who's going first?
Jerry? Okay.
We've been talking for quite some time about offering this clean slate program to clean up a bunch of the old warrants. And while I can speak of things in general, you'll have to get the court clerk to give you some specific numbers and specific procedures. We had wanted to do it earlier in the year during tax return season, but because of the move of the court clerk from City Hall into the new building, it's been postponed until now. Now that they are in there, we feel like we could implement it and clean up some of the old warrants. I will tell you from my perspective, we are having people that are in a downward spiral. They have thousands of dollars worth of fines. We pick them up, we incarcerate them, we hold them for 48 to 72 hours, and then they're out again, and they're underwater. And I don't see any way that they're going to get above water without some type of assistance. I looked at Ferguson, Missouri, and I think probably most of you are aware of the situations that's happened there. And it's apples and oranges compared to us. Ferguson, the Department of Justice report criticized them for forcing the police department to do revenue way over and above what the McAlester Police Department does. We are concentrating much more on public safety than we are on revenue. Ferguson had racial issues that we do not have. I monitor that every year to make sure that our citations, the percentage issued, are in line with our racial populations, and they are. The one thing that Ferguson had that we have ended up having, and the court clerk can address this a little bit more, is a proliferation of warrants. warrants because people aren't paying their fines. They'll come to court. The judge will release them with a promise to pay, and they are not willing or not able to pay, and some of them are not able to pay. So I've had many conversations with the court clerk, and we feel like that it would be a good thing to have a clean slate program to make a reduction, a percentage reduction in the cost of the warrants, and perhaps some of these people could somehow come up with the money, hopefully from a legal way, to pay off their fines. So with that, I can turn it over to the court clerk.
Yes, as you can see from the handout, there's a little over $4 million in outstanding warrants at this time. And we broke it down into $5,000 and $5,000 increments here. And you see the biggest majority is between $1 and $5K right now. And that's our biggest payers also. The ones that are on what we call warrant status pay plans, where they come in and they put down their down payments and they're making monthly payments, and they stay with you for a little while, and pretty soon they do like Gary said, they lose the payment, and then they get arrested by a warrant, and then they go to jail, and they have possibly jail fees. Then we also add on we have a warrant fee on them. When they get out, they either come before the judge again and set up another pay plan, or they never show up, and they get picked up again on another warrant, which means we add more fees for issuing the warrant right back on top of them. And in that process also, we have taken their driver's license from them and suspended them. Not everybody, but most of them. Therefore, then they go out and they create a driving under suspension, and then they start the same thing of getting more fees added on. And then we have one person that's got like 25 DUSs, they won't stop driving. They've gotten in this thing, and they at one time had a driver's license, and they have a good job. I mean, they have a job, they do work, but it's built up to, she's in that third category right there, the $10,000 to $15,000 that she can't seem to get ahead of. So with that, we were hoping to also save on some of the jail fees, because that has grown quite a bit and cost the city. So we're thinking if we could run this for 3 months during the time when they can be out getting extra jobs in the summertime and be able to work for this money, if we advertise it well enough, that we can get it out there starting maybe July 1st through September 30th during that time, and give them a chance. No pay plan. They have to come in and pay one lump sum, and then we'll forgive 75% of the balance.
KB, what if it's, let's say somebody owed 10 grand or 20, so they have to pay 75%. I mean, you forgive 75% of that, and then the balance, ma'am, I'm sorry, I didn't go through you, I'm sorry. So then you have the balance, so they have to pay that balance in a lump sum, or does that go out to?
I'm about to lose my voice. They pay 25% of what they owe.
Okay.
And then the balance of 75% is forgiven, and we reinstate, give them a release to get reinstated if they have one coming.
Mayor, question for the chief. Thank you. Chief?
Yes, sir.
Now, are they still, I don't know if they're arresting people, but so if this plan go into effect, and it's kind of, there's a repetition, because I've seen it from the parole board, so I see a lot. You can't stop some of these people like you're talking about driving a car. They'll find a car, but and just keep driving. I don't know what you can do about them, but so we keep compiling. That's what we're doing. And like KB said, Ms. Bower, sorry. You just go ahead and wipe off 75%. That's my understanding, what I mentioned a minute ago.
If they will meet that requirement.
If they'll meet that. Now, what if they don't even make an effort? What happens? You arrest them again?
That's correct.
I mean, okay.
The warrant stands as is if they don't try. Also, our collection agency, I talked to them about it, and they will be proactive in contacting people, because we can only see the people in our jurisdiction, but they have ways of contacting people outside of our jurisdiction, and so they would be also active in helping us to get the word out to these people.
Okay, that's a good point. I'm assuming a lot of times these people get frustrated. I used to hear it, like I said, So they just give up. Like, I can't pay it, so what's the big deal? Yeah.
Vice Mayor Stevens.
This is just kind of on maybe a separate question, hearing this and things like that. I know that we brought it for discussion. I think the mayor did once before for like a work program to
Yes.
reduce these fees. Do we have that in place?
Yes,
How is that
Yeah.
working?
the court clerk should explain
know,
it better.
We've had probably about 20 or 25 people that has approached us to do that, or we've kind of mentioned it to us that would be eligible. Several of them don't work out because they have disabilities and stuff like that. Out of the maybe 20 that I've had so far, 7 has completed it. Maybe 7 has completed it accurately of that, but now that option's there too. And I've offered it to people, but
You can only do so
I
much.
know,
I
you
understand.
can. And you can't babysit them through it, but I give them places that they can go, and they just don't come back.
At another time, would you give me some places that they can go and
Sure.
things like that? Could you give me
Oh,
some
yeah.
information on that,
Yeah,
please?
I
All right.
will.
Thank you.
If I remember correctly, just about any nonprofit work would qualify.
Pride of McAlester is probably the one that helps the most. And they take everybody we send to on that, and Parent Club and the Food Bank are the 3 ones that help the most. I do have to say also on the, what we call a warrant is people that have started off getting a warrant and they get in the system of the warrants. Because we have other pay plans where people come in on new charges and they get set on what we call a 45-day placement. And they have to pay it within 45 days. They're not in a warrant status, so we're not talking about those people. Once they get in this pay plan warrant situation, they come in, and some come in and pay down their 4th, or they go before the judge and do like they're supposed to, and they'll start making their pay plans. I want to include these people. They're not on an active warrant pay plan for this. This is active, and there's something else. But those people should also be included because they have faithfully paid on those warrant situations, and they're really trying it. So I don't know about the wording that we need to put in there to also include these people that actually don't have a warrant actively, but they are paying on that situation.
The county has done this in the past, haven't they?
A lot of people have done this.
How much is a warrant, Mayor? A warrant fee?
A warrant fee is about $20.
I didn't mean you were going.
Did you ask the mayor or me?
Well, I was trying to go through
Ask me
him,
like I have a lot of
go through
experience.
him to ask you. I was trying not to just jump over there. He's the mayor. I was just,
Well, it's $20 for the warrant, and it's $5 for the collection fee.
okay.
Councilman Reed.
Thank you, Mayor.
One of the things that I'd like to see is maybe a reevaluation of the fines. I know I mentioned a few years ago when we had an agenda item raising the fines for certain offenses, that you can get to the point where you price people out of being able to pay, and if people can't afford to pay the fine, we're not doing anybody any good. You can get to a point where I think it's too much. I mean, I know you're trying to deter somebody to reoffend, but they also need to be able to pay. So I think there needs to be a balance there. And I'd like to see maybe a reevaluation of some of the fines of offenses where you have people who commit the type of crimes that are, or that's causing these delinquencies.
Can I interject?
If there's certain types of offenses that are recurring that people can't pay.
One of them would be your failure to appear. When people don't appear for court, we charge them with a failure to appear. The fine is $75, but by the time you add on the $85 court cost, the IT fee, all that other, that's $160 for missing court. That adds up real fast on people, and I do think that's might ought to be.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you get to the point where they just say, forget it. I can't do anything about it.
We can bring that back as an agenda item for discussion at the next meeting.
Councilwoman Harrison.
I think I've got 2 quick questions to whomever. How far back are you going on the warrants? Like 5 years, 10 years, 20?
We got in code in 2009, end of 2009. We had a different software, and then we got in code in July, I think, of 2009. So it was real, the conversion was real messy. The way it came over was, it was really hard for us to even balance at the end of the day. So I took what cleanest, where we really kind of straightened everything out from January 1st of 2010 up until April of this year. So you've got almost 10 years worth of fines here. That's a lot of years. It also has lots of storage. I can't even move my storage from one place to the other because it's so big.
Oh, and then the other part, two parts. When did you say that this would be effective? July the 1st through?
July 1st is the last day of September.
All right. And then the other thing too, okay,
Yes,
Dr. Mayor, is who's responsible for deleting or doing these warrants? What if it's not put in the computer system and somebody gets arrested for a warrant even though they paid it? How do you ensure that this person isn't arrested, stopped? If there was a glitch in the computer system and they have paid, how do you ensure that there's some kind of
Because all
paperwork?
of our receipts go immediately into, when they make a payment, immediately goes into Encode.
Okay,
And so whenever someone gets, and then when they don't pay, I have a warrant clerk that issues the warrant. Once the person is picked up, it's logged at the dispatch office and then also at the jail. And then when we come in the next morning, we pull those warrants and make sure they're taken off.
so you're saying a person will be arrested? Or what did you say when they're brought in? Did you say that?
When they're brought in and put in jail,
Yes.
then the dispatch office makes a note of that, and they every morning when we come in, we pull those warrants that were in jail the night before, or if they came in and worked out a pay plan, we pull the warrant off immediately.
All right, now, is this statewide?
No,
I mean, and
no,
anybody?
just McAlester.
Just McAlester. All right, thank you.
So what this would do essentially is just remove a liability from our balance sheet
That's
of anybody that would pay.
That's true.
Vice Mayor Stevens.
Unless there's any more discussion, I'd like to make a motion to approve with the amendment that Ms. Boatright was talking about with the people that are paying on warrants,
Be included.
be included and do that. I think that makes sense.
I'll second it.
Is there any further discussion? Karen, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Reed,
Yes.
JB,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries.
Hey, we know each other a long time. We've known each other a long time.
And just to protect Karen, I passed her a note telling her to make sure and call you
Yeah,
that.
and I'm
since-
keeping it
All right, we are on. Thank you, Chief. Are you a part of the next one?
Yes.
Okay. We're on to agenda item number 6, consider and act upon approval to purchase a new and unused 2019 Ford F-150 XL pickup.
Yes, the pickup would be for our animal control officer. He's driving a 2006 with 167,000 miles on it. According to the garage and according to him, it's a problem. We would like to purchase this new pickup truck that's 4-wheel drive. We'll get a box to put on it for the animal control, and he just really needs it. I will tell you, my officers out there say he's probably the hardest working man in the city. He stays busy doing what he does, and right now he doesn't have reliable equipment to work with. There were 2 animal control trucks. In the past we had 2 animal control officers. City Garage says the other truck has transmission issues. It's an older vehicle as well, and they don't believe it's financially prudent to try to fix it. And this 2006, it's just worn out. The purchase would be from our local Ford dealership, which actually gave us a price lower than the state bid, and I would request the purchase of this truck.
Any questions?
Chief, how many, you have 2 men working?
Now, 1 animal control officer full-time now. He's assisted by the Krebs animal control officer. They kind of work hand in hand.
So on the weekends when
The Krebs officer works
Works.
one weekend, and
okay.
whenever we have problems, she'll come over here and take care of it.
And the old truck's gone.
Well, I don't know what we'll do with it. That's up to the city manager, I suppose.
Okay.
Council Pritchard,
I make a motion that we buy the truck.
is there a second? Second by Mayor Stevens. Any further discussion? Would you call the roll, Karen?
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries.
Thank you,
Chief.
councilors.
We're on to agenda item number 7, consider an act upon approval of a contract with American Municipal Services for collection of monies owed to the city for utility services. Ms. Urban.
Mayor and council, AMS Collection Services collects for our court already and has for many years. We do not have anyone currently doing our utility services, and majority of the collection agencies do not even want to touch utility collections. And so unless they do our court, so the obvious thing is to go to AMS, and this is the contract with them, and it is new. The one that you previously renewed was the court in the consent agenda. So this is just a new one, but it's basically the same as what we've had, except that the percentages are different because the court is 25% and this one is 35%.
That was the question I had, was if they already aren't paying us, putting another 35% on it is probably going to make them even less likely to pay us, isn't it?
Most of the time it's because they've moved out of the city, they've moved out of state, or those kind of things. And so the collection agencies have the abilities to send the letters and to call or do other things that we don't have. We do send an automatic letter and those kind of things to the last known address, forwarding address, but we've had collection agencies for utility before, and that's basically what they did. But a lot of the actually bad debt collection is done because they move back to our city and we don't provide water service for them until they pay their bad debt. But 35% is pretty much the typical for this industry, for this utilities, because they're more difficult to collect.
Yeah, but I don't have a problem with them keeping 35% of what they collect. The problem I have is adding 35% to what's owed.
It doesn't come out of our funds that they owe us.
Well, I'm
that
just
the
saying,
question?
if I owe you $100 and I can't pay you that, and you send it to somebody else and it goes to $135, I'm not gonna. I mean, that doesn't seem to work for me.
Mayor, if I could.
Yeah. Okay.
These people are not being pursued. We're writing a letter, a courtesy letter after they've gone delinquent with us. We have no ability to track them down and pursue them. So this $35 or 30, in your case, $35 would be the work that they're doing to make phone calls, to send letters, to put them on bad credit reports, those type of things. So they're actually providing a service that we are not capable of providing.
Okay. Just maybe clear it up for me then. And we'll go back to the $100 that gets the $35 put on it. Then they would get 35% of the 100 as part of they get 35% of what is collective, what's owed. Plus they would get another $35.
No.
That's the way I read
We
it.
get the $100 and they get the $35 on top of what they originally owe us. We get what they originally owe us.
It's not the way that I read it. Councilman Reed?
Tony, what's the average debt that you're trying to collect?
$100.
Don't we recoup a lot of that in keeping their deposit? Don't we still collect deposits?
Yes.
So how much are we really trying to get from them?
Well,
Assuming it's $100, so, because I know we don't let it go more than a month without shutting them off anyway. So
right.
It just doesn't seem like the debt would be very high after you keep the deposit.
It isn't. That's why collection agencies don't want to do it fines and warrants
So
are much
really,
higher,
what is the deposit on a water account?
$80.
Okay, so if they,
105, isn't it?
The $25 is a service fee for connection.
Which we do most of that electronically now, correct?
No,
Don't we have
we
this
can't do that
meters?
electronically.
Vice
You don't-
Versa,
you
Vice
don't-
Vice Versa Stevens, we got to let Mr. Reed
yeah,
finish.
you hijacked my discussion.
So sorry. So sorry.
And I
Uh,
answer, my reflexes to
But
answer.
anyway, so $100 bill,
Uh-huh.
we're keeping $80 right off the top. So
Mhm.
really, we're only trying to collect $20.
Yes.
It'd be right. So it'd be 35% of $20. I mean, I think that's reasonable. I mean, postage costs more than that. But anyway, I mean, I wouldn't think we'd be trying to collect much. So the 35% to me doesn't really matter all that much.
What is the total dollars that were owed? Do you know?
Not off the top of my
I mean,
head
is it a lot?
that we're owed.
Yeah.
We have a lot of bad debt on our balance sheet.
But utility bad debt?
Uncollectible accounts, yes. I actually have, no, I don't have the balance sheet with me. But it's small increments and some of it's not collectible. I mean, it's not going to ever be collectible. But the collection agency, like before, the average monthly thing that they would send us, maybe $200 to $500 tops monthly. So we're talking about a very minimum amount of money.
Yeah, Councilman Harrison,
Oh, all
sorry.
right. Are we talking about individuals and businesses too, or just strictly individuals?
Both.
Both, all right. May I say the part? All right. On your share your neighbor donation, can any of that be used to cover any of the debt that's not been paid? You know, on the bills, it has a portion where you could, donate some money to somebody else's bill. Can any
Usually,
of that be used?
well, usually that's used for some kind of health reason or some kind of a need that's brought to our attention, and those kind of applications go through the office. We don't really do majority of the bad debt that we're talking about are people that do not move within the city or located locally. They've moved out of state. They usually have about 3 months of bill. The $80 covers, 1.5 bills if they had a minimum bill. And so that's what, on top of that $80 is what we're trying to collect, because they didn't turn off their water and they left.
Are they going to be using social media, or are they just going to be trying to randomly keep sending the same mail over and over repetitively and no response?
Well, they do
How
a
is that?
good job on our court side, and they used a little bit of everything, the way I understand
This
it.
company will.
Yes, this company does a lot more than resources than we have.
Okay. Thank
Councilman
you.
Pritchard.
I make a motion that we would accept this contract, this agreement.
Is there a second? Second, Councilman Reed. Any further discussion? Karen, call the roll, please.
Councilman Harrison,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Stevens, Reed,
Yes.
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, the motion carries. We're on to agenda item number 9. Consider an act upon approval of the contract with U.S. Payments LLC to install and operate kiosks to accept court and utility payments.
Well, I'm kind of excited about this. I've been looking at different companies for several years, not finding a match that would really fit what we have here. This company provides customers 24/7. We have existing 2 locations here in town already, which is at Pruitt's and at Choctaw Travel Plaza, that they can do their water bill there. Also, they take utility and so one-stop bill payment. We frequently ask at our window whether we can take electric bill payments and those kind of things that I think we've done in the past. But they could go to Pruitt's and pay everything at one place. The customers are able to pay with not only checking and credit card or debit cards, but also cash at the kiosk. And so that opens up a whole nother set of citizens that like to pay with cash. We do not have a location for the kiosk, but we would like to do a kiosk. Signing this or agreeing to this tonight is actually, we get the two locations for free. We don't pay anything except for the $1.50 per transaction fee. And for example, our online payment ETS right now, the city pays $2, I believe, for those transactions. So it's even cheaper than the online system that we have now. And then the outdoor, I would like to, and I intend to try to find a drive-through position for a kiosk so that people can drive through, whether they're disabled, whether we have terrible rain and flooding and bad weather that they don't want to get out of their car to come in and pay, or they have 4 screaming kids in the back and they don't want to get them out of their car seats and bring them in. Not that I know about that, but the intention is to eventually get a kiosk placed within the city so that they can drive through a kiosk 24/7, all year long, so that they can pay their utility bills that way for convenience.
Okay, so under this particular agreement, we get 2 free kiosks, so we wouldn't have to pay the $950 a month.
No, that's only when we place the drive-through. It's the $950.
Any other questions or comments? Councilman Pritchard?
So these will be on city property? Like, these are in addition to the 2 that already exist in the community?
They already exist with this company, so we just are agreeing to do the software, and so our software will be installed on those machines that are at those locations without us having to pay for anything.
So today, can somebody go to Pruitt's and pay their bill?
Not today, no.
But once we
adopt this, yes.
Okay. What are the machines? What do they do with the machines right now?
You can make your payment to Pruitt's. They have a kiosk from this company, and you can make, I think, your electric and your cable and other various.
But we're just not on their system.
We're just not on their system.
Any other questions, comments? Take a motion and second to approve. Motion, Councilman Reed, second, Councilman Brown. Any discussion? Karen, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Pritchard,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and motion carries. We're on to agenda item number 9, discussion and possible action on recommendations to the Downtown Area Reinvestment Review Committee. Councilman Pritchard.
Yeah. So we took action on this a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of meetings ago. The council voted against the plan prepared by the review committee, but during that discussion, I think every council member that voted no said they liked the plan but wanted to see some changes. I wanted to put it on the agenda to see if you all would, like to talk about what changes you'd like to see to the plan, and then after that, if possible, make some modifications to the plan, or at least call another committee meeting to discuss making the modifications to the plan, and potentially adopt or come up with a plan that this body, may be willing to adopt at a future date. So that's sort of an open question, but if anybody would like to give me some feedback, I would appreciate it.
I did a handout that I'd be happy to present to the committee at some point in time. There's a lot of information on there. I don't expect people to garner much from it this evening, but it's there for future consideration, I guess. Councilor Reed?
Mayor, I just read through your proposal just before the meeting, but I think some of the same concerns you have is what I have, and I talked about them during the last meeting, and I want to say I had no problem with the rationale for the TIF. I think Councilman Pritchard presented a very well thought out rationale for establishing the TIF. Why I have a problem with it's the plan itself. And there's 4 items specifically. I'd like to see the northern boundary of the TIF moved back to East Washington. Remove the verbiage of the school district receiving funds. more specifically state what projects the money will be used for is just too general, and reduce the length of the TIF to 10 years. Those are my primary concerns.
That's good. That's good feedback.
Any, Councilwoman Harrison?
Is it okay to talk directly to you? All right. Is there anything that you have changed that you think that would be more agreeable to we'll just say to.
Well, I mean, I haven't made any changes or done
Just
anything.
representing it.
Well, I mean, no, I mean, so the way I think, and I'm not actually sure, but the way I've anticipated that if this plan will move forward, it would go back to the review committee. Review committee would make another recommendation to this body. I don't know what that would be, but, and then this body could, if they wanted to, take action on that, the second recommendation of the review committee. But I didn't want to call another committee meeting without having some little bit more guidance from this body about what we wanted to see. I mean, when we started, at least when I started as the chairperson of that committee, some members of the committee were, they felt very strongly that they wanted to have a plan. You know, they felt they were the review committee, so they wanted to be sort of reviewing a plan that someone gave them. You know, so I wanted that to have more direction at this point from the council. So that's it.
If it's okay to ask you if you feel comfortable answering this, the ones that weren't in agreement with it, did they have any specific reason for that? That you feel comfortable sharing?
I mean, I would feel comfortable sharing if I knew, but I mean, there were, you know,
Survey.
some committee members were more vocal about their feelings than others. But I mean, even with that being said, it was, you know, it's a pretty long plan with a lot of different details. So I'm not, when people cast their vote yes or no, I'm not exactly sure one way or another what was the thing that decided it for them.
And for myself, I would like to see the years reduced down to at least like 10.
Anyone else? Councilman Reed and I think, have the same concerns. So, anything from anyone? All right. We will move, that will conclude our agenda business, and we will move to new business. Any matter not known or which could not have been reasonably foreseen prior to the time of posting the agenda in accordance with Section 311.9, Title 25 Oklahoma State Statutes. Do we have any new business?
We do not, Mayor.
Let's go to the city manager's report.
We are issuing the final comp plan. Comment period is open until June the 28th, so please review that plan. If you're having troubles opening it up, let us know and we'll get you a hard copy right away. But if you could review that, give us any comments, any feedback that you may have. We're also getting that out to the public through all medias. I wanted to talk just a few minutes about Connolly Park. Connolly Park is slated for new park equipment. That was supposed to happen in June, but as you're all aware, there's been a lot of rain in our state, and the installers are backed up on their installations in other communities. We are estimating that park equipment to be installed sometime around mid-July. In conjunction with our parks, we have a new Thunder Court that is being built right now over in Chaddock Park, and that dedication is going to be on June the 26th, and it's going to be quite an event. So we'll be getting out those invitations, and hopefully everybody will be able to attend that. It's going to be quite a celebration, and that is a court that's being done through the Thunder organization and also Enable Energy, and it's come to this city with no cost whatsoever. So it's a pretty phenomenal addition to our park systems. One other thing that we are looking at and going to be moving forward on is, as you're aware, about 3 years ago, we put in a very nice archery park outside of town. We have additional land through the trees out there, and we're going to be putting in a 3D archery range. It's a walk-through type archery field that has a lot of different components to it, but it's a walk-through archery range. It's going to be pretty interesting. They have one in Eufaula. Yeah, I know. I'm afraid that.
We should have a council meeting out there.
Yeah. Uh,
Let's have a very vanilla agenda that night.
I personally have a crossbow. Okay, you guys can bring what you want. But anyway, this is an exciting addition. So we're continuing to improve all of our park systems and move forward. So we're excited about it. That's all I have, Mayor.
Who's liable if somebody get injured?
We have insurance.
Oh, okay. As long as somebody pay, because I know it's gonna happen.
That's what I like. Good positive feedback. Yeah. Hopefully we won't kill too many.
Oh, we don't injure anybody, but I always like to see what's covered. I've learned my lesson.
Remarks and inquiries by the council. Vice Mayor Stevens.
Pete, I would like to say thank you to the city for finally getting those green and red lights out of downtown from Christmas time. That was an excellent choice to get those back to white, and I very much appreciate that. Thank you.
I think you're welcome.
Yeah. Council Reed.
I'd just like to thank the city staff for the work they did on this budget. I know that's a real tough job every year, and I appreciate everybody's work on that.
They have done a phenomenal job this year putting this budget together. So thank you.
Councilman Brown.
I just, same thing. I just echo the great job the city does. And like I said, a lot of times at night they're out and working, and I appreciate it because it gives me something to do.
Councilman Harrison.
I would like to thank the city employees for taking care of Hutchison Park. They've got it cut and looking good. And then also the McAlester Fire Department. We've had several fires in the city of late, and including in Northtown, and I'd like to thank them for being, for getting that taken care of.
Councilman Pritchard.
Pete or anybody else, does the city know how many homeless people we have in McAlester? Do we keep track of that?
We do not.
Do you know anybody in town that does?
Not to my knowledge.
I can tell you from past experience that the homeless shelter usually runs in the 20s. It's been as high. It's been, when it was a really cold winter, it was as high as in the 50s. But the problem with counting them is the only people that can stay in the shelter have certain rules they got to live by, and they don't always do that. So there's homeless villages throughout. There's underneath Washington Street Bridge is one. There's some over by the hospital. There used to be, I don't know if it's still there or not, one behind Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a pretty difficult number to.
Yeah, and then I asked because I've been reading and listening a little bit about it, and it's one of those things that maybe not this city, but this community, all communities, like we are paying for homeless people. We probably don't realize it because the costs are all over the place, between police, jail, hospitals, wherever. But it's almost like the research is almost like 100%. We are paying too much money to do it. Like if we adopted a more proactive approach, we could save money. But it starts with figuring out who is homeless and what their needs are. So I don't know, maybe this is just an idea, or it's definitely just an idea, but it's something we as a community should be thinking about, of identifying those people and taking a more active approach, helping some people out and saving money. I like the budget too. Thanks for the work on that. Is there, and maybe this could be something on the new website, I don't know, but was there, would it be possible, the city charter and the codes are very useful, very helpful, or they're very easy to use. The budget is not so much. I mean, it's fine. It's just, if you're looking at it on the computer, it's difficult. They're PDFs. You can't, they're not searchable. I would like to, when we're doing that website redesign, if possible, to look at making the budget a little bit more user-friendly from an electronic perspective.
Okay.
I will say I've been doing a little bit of, research on other municipalities around, and it is I didn't realize how much information we had easily accessible. It's more than a lot of places. So,
it's a lot.
Yeah. I'm sure that can kind of wear city staff out sometimes, but it's very helpful.
Good.
Thank you.
Just on the homeless thing, doing things to help with that. What we did tonight with the court costs will help that a number of people down there. Mayor's comments and committee appointments. The Juneteenth celebration is this coming Saturday, 9 o'clock at Hunter Park. Pride in McAlester recently this past weekend went up and did a big cleanup up there, cleaning up class and things like that. So it should be nice. It's a good day. I've been to it every year. I'll actually get to stay there this year because I've always had to go back to work. But it's a good turnout, a lot of fun. You get to get to see people you don't see all that often. We are doing a town hall next Tuesday at 5:30 at Kiamichi Technology Center, and it's concerning crime in McAlester. And we're going to have, I believe, Officer Busby is going to be presenting, and Chief is going to be there. Representative Grego is coming. Senator Boggs, I just got an email from him saying he's going to attend. Sheriff Morris will be there as well. And we will talk about ways how to set up neighborhood watch programs and how not to be a victim of crime and things that we can do to help out the guys that do all the work along those lines. Then on our streets, I have a question, Mr. Stasiak. We have our 13. Thank you. It was buzzing my head just a while ago.
It's dead now.
We had it's either 11 or 13 projects we were doing overlays on.
Yes, sir.
I know the weather's kept us from a lot of it, but
It has.
are we progressing at all?
This week.
That's it.
Yes, we're going back to the schedule. Scheduled for the end of this week is Pierce, which is over by Thunderbird Park. From there, we are going to Van Buren. We're following the schedule.
Okay. So the list we're following going down the list.
We are, and we hope to get through that list and add more this year. But at this point, we've lost about 28 days of asphalt, being able to lay asphalt, just because of the weather. And the problem that we run into now is, and we'll resolve all these issues, but everybody else that wants to lay asphalt is also waiting in line, and they're trying to serve everybody now. And so we're in line. We're going to lay as much as we can, as fast as we can.
Great. Okay, then my final thing is today is my wife's birthday, so happy birthday, Christine.
And yours is Thursday.
Yeah, it is.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we will recess the council meeting. I would take a motion to convene as McAlester Airport Authority. The motion to include approval of minutes from May 28, 2019, regular meeting of the McAlester Airport Authority. Confirm action taken on City Council Agenda Items C, 3, 4, and to adjourn. Motion, Councilman Brown, second, Councilman Pritchard. Any discussion? Karen, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, the motion carries. Now take a motion to convene as McAlester Public Works Authority. Motion to include approval of minutes from May 28, 2019, regular meeting of McAlester Public Works Authority. Confirm action taken on City Council Agenda Items C, 3, 4, and adjourn. Motion, Councilman Brown, second, Councilman Pritchard. Any discussion? Karen, would you call the roll, please?
Stevens,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. Now take a motion to go into executive session, proposed executive session pursuant to Title 25, Section 307B2, to discuss negotiations concerning employees and representatives, employee groups. Tonight is the FOP. Motion, Councilman Reed, second, Councilman Brown. Any discussion? Karen, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Stevens,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and we're now in executive session.
Go upstairs.